Welcome to Triumph IAS. It's a daily mains practice question and answer series. This program is exclusively designed for UPSC CSE aspirants. In this video discussion, we will discuss UPSC CSE mains previous 25-year questions. Question number 1. Describe any 4 cultural elements of diversity in India and rate their relative significance in building a national identity. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. National identity in India is composed of several cultural elements, multiple religions, languages, races and ethnicity. Unity in diversity is one of the major characteristics of Indian culture, which gives India a unique national identity. The main body of the answer should be cultural elements of diversity in India. Linguistic diversity. Indian Constitution recognizes 22 languages as official language. Apart from major languages, thousands of dialects are being spoken in India. Availability of vast literature on many languages and government's effort to recognize and promote the linguistic variation has helped in binding the people speaking different tongue. Besides, respect and tolerance for all the languages can be experienced in India. Ethnic diversity. Intermingling of various ethnic groups like Iranians, Greeks, Kushanas, Shakas, Hunas, Arabs, Turks, Mughals and European has given India its composite culture that encompasses characteristics of diverse ethnic groups. Foreign invasions, immigration from other parts of the world brought alien culture to India and enriched its already diverse culture. Religious diversity. People of all the faiths and religions live in harmony in India. Since ancient times, people with different religions came and settled in India. India is among few countries in the world where such religious diversity is found. In principle, different religious groups owe their allegiance to different religious doctrines. However, at the level of rituals and lifestyles, there is a lot of intermingling among followers of different religions. Diversity in art forms. The composite nature of Indian culture is reflected in its art forms. The classical dances of India are an integral part of Indian culture and represent regional cultural ethos and beliefs. Similarly, interest in Indian music transcended caste and communal barriers, and a number of Muslim rulers were generous patrons of Hindu musicians. The conclusion of the answer is: for building national identity, the linguistic diversity is most important, followed by religious diversity, followed by ethnic diversity, and then diversity in art forms. India's ability to accommodate these diversities is at the very base of the idea of Indian society. Mutual respect, recognition and tolerance for the diverse cultural elements of India is the building block of our society and our nation. Question number 2. Discuss the possible factors that inhibit India from enacting for its citizens a uniform civil code as provided for in the Directive Principles of State Policy. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. Article 44 of the Indian Constitution provides for a uniform civil code in India. The Uniform Civil Code proposes to replace the personal laws of various religions based on the scriptures and customs with a common set of laws governing every citizen. The main body of the answer should be: however, there are many factors that inhibit India from enacting a uniform civil code. 1. India is religiously very diverse, and there are practical challenges in implementing common set of rules for personal issues like marriage, divorce, inheritance, etc. 2. UCC is perceived as encroachment on religious freedom, especially by the minorities, and forceful implementation may lead to social unrest. 3. Given the low level of literacy and social awareness among Muslims, it becomes difficult to convince them against the social disadvantages of practices like polygamy, talaqi bidat, nikah halala, etc. 4. Minorities has always been treated as vote bank, and no party is willing to offend them by imposing a uniform set of rules which may be contradicting to their religious dictums. 5. UCC is against fundamental right guaranteed under Article 25 and Article 26. However, these rights are subject to public order, morality and health. 6. It is argued that UCC is against fundamental right contained in Art. 29. However, the word culture is not defined in Art. 29. And it is contended that whether personal law forms a part of culture. 7. Masses are largely unaware of the long-term benefits of uniform civil laws pertaining to marriage, inheritance, divorce, etc., and the communal politics of India is inclined towards maintaining the status quo. 8. Some people even argue that implementation of uniform civil code will threaten the culture and identity of minorities. The conclusion of the answer is: irrational practices backed by personal laws holds no merit in the modern democratic world. Therefore, UCC should be implemented to ensure equality before law to all as provided in the Constitution. Question number 3. With a consideration towards the strategy of inclusive growth, the New Companies Bill, 2013 has indirectly made CSR a mandatory obligation. Discuss the challenges expected in its implementation in right earnest. Also discuss other provisions in the bill and their implications. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. Earlier, the act that empowered government to regulate the formation, financing and functioning of the companies was Company Act, 1956. But the decades-old act was suffering from several infirmities that prevented healthy development of corporate sector, especially winding up of sick companies. The main body of the answer should be: the act was also not in line with global trend of inclusive growth, which could provide sustainable business model. To overcome these shortcomings, New Companies Bill based on recommendation of Yashwant Sinha Committee was drafted by the Cabinet in October 2012. The important provisions in the Act and the expected challenges are as follows. Corporate Social Responsibility Clause: if company's profit after tax is 5 crore or more, its net worth is more than 500 crore, and its turnover is more than 1000 crore, then the company should give 2% of its net profit for CSR activities. Every company should have CSR board having 3 directors, one of which is independent. Company can do these activities through themselves or their NGO or donate to government. Though the clause is not mandatory, but the disclosure requirement makes the CSR binding, hence indirectly making it a mandatory obligation. Challenges expected in implementation of New Companies Bill, 2013. Companies which have already been spending money for social causes might be forced out to close their initiatives if it is not under the definition of CSR as per the new bill. Companies can shift simply to donate towards relief funds like PMRF to shown the compliance costs. The biggest challenge in its implementation is no mentioning of penalty in the Act for not doing CSR activities. Corporates are also fearful of political extortion, as politicians can force companies to contribute to their trusts. National Company Law Tribunal to fast-track the disputes and National Financial Reporting Authority for better transparency were also introduced. The provision of class action suit will push financial irregularities to backseat. The concept of dormant companies was introduced to check the non-functional companies. Key managerial personnel and promoter has been defined to affix the responsibility of functionaries. Concept of one-person company was introduced, and also the provision of women director for prescribed class of company, which will help smaller companies and also bring gender equality. The conclusion of the answer is: periodically changing of auditors will help in more transparency and can check the financial irregularities to a certain extent.